I absolutely adore that handheld gaming is back, and I grew up with the Game Boy in the 90s. I love the Nintendo DS, the PSP, all those little gaming handhelds that you can go out and buy. But if you've had any interest in PC gaming, you'll notice that there are more and more PC handhelds, but you might have tried some of the others like I have. But I think the fact is the Steam Deck, while it isn't the most powerful, nor is it logically the best, because of that, it is and always will be the best choice for most people. Don't believe me? Well, let's have a go at trying to convince you in this video. Before I convince you though, would you mind subscribing to the channel? I love making this kind of stuff and I'd love to have you along for the journey and be a wider part of a legendary gaming community. Cheers. So, you're out there, you're looking at a PC gaming handheld and wondering which is the best. Well, as I stated at the start of this video, let's get the elephant out of the room right away. Windows on touchscreen devices or gaming handhelds, I'm going to say it, it's absolutely atrocious. Unless you do some serious groundwork setting up shortcuts, bypassing home screens, attaching extra peripherals, and just generally doing a ton of tinkering, you should avoid getting a Windows-powered gaming handheld. It's just not set up for the form factor, and I've tried it. I could just about deal with it as someone who can tinker with these things, but honestly, I think it's just not worth the hassle. Windows doesn't work well on this form factor, period. It's a bad time, it's a frustrating time if I can say it, and I think you just should leave Windows to at least the Windows power to a dedicated gaming PC. Unless you simply must play games that require things like anti-cheat software to run, and that does include games like Apex Legends now. That said, why would you play an FPS on a handheld like this? I'm not sure. I'd say just avoid these at all costs. I'm dead serious about this as well. The experience for the sake of some surprisingly small bumps in performance and library size are totally not worth it, even if you get an incredible deal on the product you're looking at. The Steam Deck is streamlined for gaming. I think that's one of the major reasons why I always suggest it to people looking for a handheld gaming PC. A dedicated desktop mode is a secondary function. It's not the core part of the experience. I'd even call it the troubleshooting mode because you don't go into that Linux desktop that often unless you need to tinker with something that is additional or tacked on, or a function that you might not get right out of the box. It's for adding functionality not available at your fingertips as soon as you power it on. One major reason why it's such a good product is that you're buying into the single biggest PC gaming handheld hardware product on the market. This thing has sold millions and will continue to sell millions. It has a large, growing community of people playing, and almost more importantly, as I alluded to slightly just a second ago, tinkering with the hardware and the software. You can get so many more accessories, so many more side projects if you want those, and so much more fulfillment from the system because there is a bigger, bolder, and more dedicated group of people all enjoying the confines of a Steam Deck device. Take, for example, Decky Loader. It's in isolation, it's just a little widget panel that you can install on your Steam Deck and get some neat extra tools like better controls for Bluetooth accessories, or even things like display adjustment controls. Those are useful and appreciated. It's nothing you haven't used on practically any other piece of tech, but it's one of those things that can be added if you do want it. But here's one of the extra kickers. It also lets you do things like customize or add customization tools that help you fully theme your deck, including things like launch animations, saving a little bit of money, I might add. Then there are options like Junk Store, which I think not enough people know about. You need to hear about this if you haven't already. Well, basically this effectively lets you link your Epic Games Store to your device and allows you to add or install your Epic Games library within the Steam Deck UI, which is where I think most people should spend their time. This bypasses the need to have separate launchers or open those and streamlines that gaming, or at least gaming on other services, and means you're not locked to Steam or managing lots of services beyond that simple initial setup. Yes, you're probably shouting at the screen right now that you can do this on the Legion Go or the ROG Ally or even the MSI Claw, but you're bogged down by Windows. I mentioned that at the start of this video. Once you set up with this Junk Store, that is, it's all in a streamlined interface which is designed solely for gaming. There's no other complication, and that, at its heart, is why I think a lot of you, me included, find it hard to go and sit at your gaming PCs nowadays, especially now the Steam Deck exists, and potentially spend hours tinkering before you even actually get into games and start actually enjoying them. I'm too focused on fine-tuning when I'm on a gaming PC rather than playing over there, and by extension, the Windows system almost encourages that, or at least it feels like that, given how annoying all of those updates are and all those additional extras that Windows throws in and all that junk tacked on. Windows service packs definitely spring to mind, and it's something I think ruins the gaming experience on gaming PCs in general. I think something that's also lost when we talk about power in terms of gaming handhelds is that loads of games are targeting a specific hardware setup inside the Steam Deck. Yes, You might have better internals on competitors, but the Steam Deck wins there hands down. Steam has that handy section on the store as well, so that'll help you find games certified to work well, or at least work as best as possible on the hardware available, which is another bonus and something that isn't available elsewhere. Factor in the support window as well. I think a lot of people have overlooked this. I'd be really shocked if Valve suddenly stopped pushing out updates for the Steam Deck in, say, a couple of years. On the other hand, I would not be shocked at all if Lenovo, Asus, and all of the other handheld PC makers just said nah and stopped supporting their own handhelds. They barely push updates to 2-year-old gaming laptops. What makes you think they'll continue to do that to the Legion Go, the ROG Ally, or even the MSI Claw? But hey, you get some more frames for your games while you can, right? Maybe it's not worth it in the long run. That's all I'm trying to say here. And if, like me, you have a capable gaming PC, then later down the line, you can always stream it through Steam to your Steam Deck in your home network, which lightens the load on the Steam Deck later down the line anyway. It's a win-win. On top of that, I also have to say that I personally don't see my Steam Deck as a AAA games machine, even though that some of them will run at ultra-low settings. In fact, I tend to stick to modest titles that won't tax the hardware, which is counterintuitive to my previous point. With that framing, I think you're doing less charging, less worrying about if the graphics settings are high enough, and more time just enjoying, engaging games on a perfect, or at least as far as I'm concerned, perfect form factor. And by this point in the video, I actually hope you might have noticed that I have a white Steam Deck OLED. Well, I haven't actually purchased the official one. Thanks to hardware modding in the accessory ecosystems, which is another point I want to make, you too can fully customize the experience to suit what you want or need from this hardware, as well as that software experience with additional extras like Decky and the like. Personally, I didn't fancy spending £600 just to get a white chassis for my Steam Deck, so I went out and bought a shell mod for under £40, spent a few hours doing it, modding it, and voila, I now have a white Steam Deck. If I break something, it's also worth noting that Valve has made it easy to get replacement parts, or at least I can get third-party options to get more from this device. And that's something that Asus, ROG, all of those other companies don't necessarily offer right out of the gate. Just do this little actual example for me. Go look on Amazon and see just how many dedicated extras are for the Steam Deck versus the Legion Go, which is one of the biggest products out there which runs Windows. It's kind of like the situation with the iPhone and other phones out there. There are just more options for the most popular device, but take it with a grain of salt. The most popular doesn't always mean it's good. I get that. For any of you out there who want to try this for yourself, I'll also leave a link to the case mod I've used in the description below, and I'll leave an in-depth guide video which I did use to do that if you want to have a go at reshelling your own Steam Deck. Just be careful when detaching the speakers. This is something I want you to note from the frame itself. If you do follow that, has actually caused the controller ribbon cable to detach from under where the motherboard sits on my OLED model, and I needed to do a further teardown to reattach this despite everything looking fine, everything seeming to work. So yeah, it's just something to note that if you do want to try this for yourself. And this is one of the reasons why I think the Steam Deck is a really good option for anyone who wants to just go beyond the base model. The modding and accessory scene helps elevate that feeling that you're buying into a really well-loved and well-supported product. If something does go wrong, there's also the benefit, or at least a high chance, that you can get a solution to your specific issue, which means troubleshooting shouldn't be quite as extensive as it would be with multiple setups and all those other pieces of hardware where people aren't talking about them all the time. I think you've got to ask yourself, does that matter if you buy something if you're just going to play games on? I actually would argue yes, because finding a solution isn't something you have to spend hours or even days on just to get things running as they should. I think these intangibles are really important no matter what you go out and buy in your life, for what it's worth. So it doesn't apply to the Steam Deck, apply it to everything you buy, and you will have a good time with purchases you make. I've barely touched on a load of other things which I think makes the Steam Deck the best gaming handheld console, but the result I think is the best overall experience in a handheld gaming PC, period. Once you add up all those intangibles and those tangible things. I do want to say though, if you want to see a video on games I recommend playing on the Steam Deck, which I didn't want to envelop in this video because it would have been too long, then hit like on this particular video. If there's enough interest, I'll do a deeper dive into the games and settings for those games that I suggest, and tips on, or at least tips on how to get more from this gaming handheld. Hopefully we enjoyed this, and this has given you a little bit of insight into why the Steam Deck continues to win. If you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed the Steam Deck, then hopefully you enjoyed this video. I've glazed this thing enough already, so speak to you in a bit. Cheers.